The next task we have is to adjust where our middle keyframe is placed and the end keyframe, because we were very careful in figuring that out. And if we look at our storyboard planner in part B, we wrote down the start time from Audacity and multiplied by 10 to get our flash frame number. And for the middle section, I calculated that it needs to be at frame 102. By default, the middle keyframe is at frame 100, so I'm very close. Moving a keyframe is a two-step process. The first step is to click on the keyframe and select it, like I've done just now. Then I can click on it and drag it to move it, and you'll notice that I have just one blue rectangle there that's moving. I'm going to move that to 102. And I can double check that over here. I'm now on frame 102. If I happen to click and drag right away, you'll notice that I'm making a selection, which is different. So make sure you click once and let go, click again to drag. The other thing we need to be careful of is that you stay on the same layer. We're on the background layer right now, and we can move our keyframe anywhere back and forth, and you'll notice that the end frame for our beginning follows along. If I take my keyframe and I accidentally go up on the timeline and let go, I've moved my keyframe right out of place, and Flash has made a new empty container to fill the gap. Whenever you make a new keyframe on an empty part of the timeline, Flash will fill the gap with a container. And that's normal, and don't be alarmed if that happens. Now, if you do move your keyframe to a spot on the wrong part of the timeline, the easiest thing to do is just go up to the Edit menu and choose Undo. And you may need to do that a couple of times for Flash to get a grip. Once it's back in the right place, we can just put it where we want on the same layer. Now let's go to our end section, and we're going to adjust that as well. My start time is frame 220. So I want to make sure that I can see both my keyframe and where I'm going to. If you need to make a big adjustment, you may need to scroll so that you can see both numbers. It's just easier that way. But I'm not going very far. So, two-step process. I click and select my keyframe. Then I come back and I click and I drag it on the same layer, not going up or down, and dropping on to 20. There we go. Now let's go back to the beginning, and we'll just to frame 1 here. Now we're going to play it. One thing we should check though is whether Flash is going to play our audio properly. So just click once in the narration container, and if we click on the first frame there, that'll be good. And we just want to make sure that in our sound properties that our audio is not synced to event. That's the wrong setting. We want it to be on stream. And to play it, just press the return key. That will start or stop the playback.
Around 20,000 years ago, Toronto was covered by a huge glacier 2 kilometers thick.
When the glacier melted, it formed Lake Iroquois and the waterfront of the time.
Lake Iroquois and many of the neighboring rivers acted like the roads and highways for the Aboriginal people.
The Aboriginal people traveled by canoe to reach many hunting, fishing, and trading grounds and other locations.
Lake Iroquois eventually dwindled into what we now call Lake Ontario.
And I'll press return to stop that. Now here's a perfect time to adjust our ending so that we match up with our audio. It's kind of strange to have a big gap at the end. If your audio is shorter than 30 seconds, then this is easy. Bring your cursor past the end of 30 seconds, past our container, and click and start dragging so that we can make a selection. And we're going to select right after our audio ends. Then you're going to hold down the Shift key and press the frame key at the top of the keyboard. and that will delete all of those frames. If your audio goes past 30 seconds, so if we imagine this is 30 seconds, you need to add new keyframes. And we can do a test. So select 2 frames somewhere past 30 seconds and press the frame key without the shift, and that will add frames. We can either add frames, and if your blue line is shorter than the end, then you know what to do. You can make a selection and shift frame key, or you can keep adding more if you need to. But I'm going to get rid of those extras so that our sound ends at the same time as our containers. Let's go up to the File menu and Save.